Hello there everybody, welcome back to the Advanced Vape channel. Today we're going to be looking at the VCST from VAPERZ CLOUD. And right now I've got it fully disassembled just to show you how it comes apart and goes back together, and then we'll put it together and work on the build that I've already put on there. So here is the top portion of the tank, fully disassembled. It's got a drip tip. This is actually the O-ring, sorry, the airflow ring that goes on here. I'll put that on there in just a second. So the glass is not actually fixed on there the way that it normally would. So on a normal tank, these two pieces would unscrew and then you put the glass on and screw them back together. But on this one, it's kind of just pressure held on there by the O-rings. So it's being held there by that O-ring. And you just push it all the way in. And as of right now, it's kind of just stuck in there. And then it has this top cap here, and that's what finally seals that glass in place. So that's a lot better system than having to try and squeeze, just like screw these together and kind of squeeze the glass down. So I like the way that this is kind of secured on there much better. And you'll notice there's a big hole in the chimney there, which when you have the drip tip in there is blocked. And that's going to be your fill port. So to fill it up, you just take the drip tip out and fill from there. And you'll see me do that in a few minutes. So here's the top section, and that connects to the base. So obviously, as you can see, this is a big tank. It's 30 millimeters, and so it's one of those tanks with lots of air, lots of juice capacity, and just huge in general. So it seems bigger to me than the Modfather, even though they're the same diameter. Here's the top of the Modfather with the shorty kit on there just to compare. Same diameter, but it feels bigger to me, at least with the shorty on the Modfather. So we'll put the airflow control ring on there, and it's just held in there by an O-ring and by the top part. And so this is just kind of locked into place. It locks down and then twists, and that serves also as the juice flow control. So I'll unlock it and pull it off. And let's go on and talk about the build deck and the build that I have in here at the moment. So as you can see, the build deck is a velocity style deck with kind of Kennedy style airflow tubes in there. So it looks a lot like the Tsunami RTA, but this isn't an RDA, it's a tank. And I'll go into the wicking a little more when we get there. But it's a pretty simple, functional design. I like the Kennedy airflow, and I like the huge deck and the huge post holes in there. So you're going to be able to fit all kinds of crazy stuff in there. This is a framed staple coil that I have in there. And if you'll notice, I kind of put it in here a little bit differently. I have a friend who swears by doing it this way, so I thought for this video I'd try it this way. If you'll notice, normally I would have the low leg going into the low hole and the high leg going into the high hole on the post here, but I've switched that around so the top leg goes into the bottom hole and the bottom leg goes into the top hole. And the point of that is to make it a little bit neater so you don't have those really long legs stretching out, especially with something like a staple. So I like that tip, and I'm going to try it out on this build and see how it works with a really firm wire like a framed staple. So this is 2 pieces of 30 gauge and 6 pieces of 0.5 ribbon, and that's all wrapped with 40 gauge. So a really firm wire. And if I can manage to do it this method with this wire, then any wire will work. So let's go on and get through the dry fire process so we can talk about the wicking a little bit. As you can see, this is not an absolutely perfect overwrap on there. There's some spacing in there, but I handmade this for this video. It's not going to be absolutely perfect. Okay, I think we're good here. As you can see, I'm trying to be real patient and gentle with it. I was trying not to brush it because this 40 gauge wrap can easily become damaged if I start brushing it. So I just relied on squeezing, and I was trying to be really gentle. I started at 30 watts, and this is a 0.08 build, so that's really low for this build. If your build was something different, you want to start way lower than 30. But I just took my time on it because there's a lot of metal inside this build, and so I just want to take my time and not end up damaging the wire in the process of firing it. But I think we're looking good here. Take one more look at it. Yep, we're looking good. So let's zoom back out and talk about wicking. So wicking this thing is as close to wicking an RDA of any tank that I've seen. The process is completely the same as doing an RDA. You're just putting cotton in these little slots exactly like you would on something like the Tsunami or the Kennedy. And it kind of takes it from there. So the Modfather is not too different from doing it like an RDA, folding it under there, but you got to be a little bit more careful than you would with an RDA, and this one is not really the case, so it's simpler than that. I'm going to be using native wicks with this. So as you can see, I felt that resistance wasn't quite right, so I took just another little strand off of there to make it right. And now we just cut it. And I tend to cut it right at the edge of the deck, maybe a little bit in. Because it doesn't matter if you're using quite a bit of wick and it gets down to the bottom of the deck, because that's not where it's wicking from. And I'm going to brush this out just a little bit. And then we just put it down in these little slots exactly like you would if this was the Tsunami. Alright, so up to this point it's been completely identical to doing an RDA. But from here I like to just take a little bit of time on this and make sure that it's going to wick fast enough for my preferences. So what I do is just push it in just a little bit so that it's not super packed in there, but I also have to make sure that it's blocked enough that it's not just going to pour juice in there and eventually leak. So it's kind of a balance for me between totally blocking with the cotton or just letting enough cotton out of the way enough to let enough juice through there to get the flavor that I personally like. And I try and make sure that this side is definitely blocked so the juice can't go from here across to the air holes. Okay, and we're ready to add juice and do one more final check on it. Okay, I think we're good to go. I'm just going to make one final check here. Now that the cotton is starting to plump up, that we're blocked all the way around. And it looks okay. And now we've got it locked on there. Juice flow is closed. So we pull off the drip tip. And there may be other ways to fill this. I'm sure there is. This is just the way that I fill it, and I assume is the way they intended it to be filled. Okay, and we're ready to open it up. Make sure we don't have any leaks. All right, it looks okay. And I'm gonna do this at 90 watts. And I'll try it with the airflow all the way open, starting out. I'm going to turn down this air just a little bit because it's very airy. It's a very wide bore drip tip with a lot of air going through there. So this is a really kind of heavy duty build that I have on here, and I had to turn the air down just a little bit. So what it feels like to me is an RDA on like its third vape after you just filled it. So not as saturated as on the first and second. So right at that third one, there's still quite a bit of juice there, but it's not quite as saturated as it would be if you just filled it. That's what it feels like to me. And I think it would be fair to call this a straight up cloud tank. I know with this camera angle it's kind of hard. Sorry about that, I ran out of recording space. What I was saying was this is a straight up cloud tank to me. I know that it's hard to see with this camera angle, but these clouds are extremely big. And part of that's the build that I have in here, but this is just a cloud type tank. So the flavor is very good, but I wouldn't say that it's excellent. It's definitely clouds first and flavor second. And for me, most drippers are kind of like that. I know most people would say drippers have the best flavor, but I wouldn't really agree with that with some of the RTAs that have been out here lately. And if you compare this with the Modfather is going to win on flavor. It doesn't put out as big of clouds as this does, though, so this would have the edge as far as clouds, but flavor, it takes a second to the Modfather. Yeah, really good flavor, but I wouldn't call it excellent flavor. It's just a cloud tank to me. So if clouds are your number one and flavors number two, it's a really good choice. But that's not to say that it has bad flavor. It is really good. As you can see, it goes through juice very fast. I had this filled up, and you saw how many times I vaped it, and it's already down quite a bit. As far as pros for this tank, I would say very easy to build, extremely easy to wick. It is very much like a dripper that has a tank around it. And that seems to be where things are going as far as new tanks coming out. It's been more of a dripper experience, which is good because the flavor on tanks lately has gotten much better. Overall, I'd put this under the Modfather, but they're both really good, and I have been using this a lot. They're about the same price, somewhere around $70 for both of them. I would still say that I prefer the Modfather, but Modfather is really hard to get a hold of, and this one is not. So if you're looking for a great cloud tank with a huge build deck and good flavor, it's a really good choice. It does go through juice really fast, so if you're someone that uses premium juice, that's going to get expensive really fast, but it's like that with all of these RTAs that are coming out right now. Definitely the case with the Modfather. Engine goes through juice pretty fast, and so does the Mage. Anything that's going to have good flavor is going to go through juice really fast, and that gets really expensive for the premium juice users out there. But if you make your own or get it cheaper, not really a concern. I like just the way that this tank is put together and how easy it is to use. I have no complaints as far as that's concerned. If I had to come up excuse me, if I had to come up with a con, it would be I would prefer just a little bit less of a wide bore drip tip on there. But that's not a huge deal. It's pretty small. And I wish the flavor was just a little bit better, but honestly, I feel like that's me being picky at this point. It does have really good flavor. I'm a flavor chaser, so I can get kind of picky when it comes to that. Overall, a good tank. That's going to bring us to the end of this video about the VCST. If you like this video on our channel, give us a like and subscribe to our channel. And as always, if you have any questions, leave them below in the comments or send me an email. Thanks.